I am a 32 years old female, and I was raised Mormon, but I'm not now, nor do I follow any other religion. My mom is still very much in the cult. As such, she has the typical Mormon mindset regarding gender roles and all that bullshit. Granted, I still think she'd be this way without her religion, though maybe not as bad. We get along splendidly, except when the topic of her religion comes up, which doesn't often. She's visiting right now. I don't see her in person much, but she came down for my birthday. It's also important to note that I have 2 sons. My 5-year-old has a mohawk. My 3-year-old has shaggy, shoulder-length hair. He's never had a haircut for a multitude of reasons, none of which would even be asked if he were a girl. Not long after she got here, she started going in on his hair. This is not the first time she's given her opinion on it. Why don't I cut it? Don't I want to prevent him from being bullied? Or from people thinking he's a girl? Because he hasn't asked and I want it to be his choice. Because he acts like I'm murdering him when I brush his teeth and hair. Because he also flails around like he's having an exorcism, so imagine that with a pair of scissors. Because if someone sees long hair and assumes girl, that's on them, and a simple, he's a boy, corrects it. But mostly it's because I don't want to. She got pissed and said what she really thought, which was, well, I just don't like long hair on boys. Clearly. Yet she has no problem with my other son's mohawk. Guess that's boyish enough for her. And she said it in front of both my sons, which pissed me off. I said the first thing which came to my head, which was, if you have a problem with long hair on boys, I suggest you take it up with your Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. You can start by asking him to get a haircut. Call John the barber. Bruh. If looks could kill, I'd be in outer darkness right now. She steeped in her anger for a while but didn't say anything else. She hasn't changed her opinion, nor will she. But I don't think she wants to get roasted again either, so she won't bring it up anymore. I feel like we're both assholes. As much as I hate her religion, that was also a low blow, and I have a tendency to speak first, regret later. Though I don't necessarily regret my words, I do regret how they made her feel. She is my mom after all. So I recently got together with a guy from my hobby. He asked me out first and I had some doubts that we'd work together as a couple because of the age difference. He's 35 and I'm 22. So, in my apartment, since it's an old house that was originally a single-family house, there isn't much soundproofing. And the floors creak when people move. I've gotten used to the sound of the guy upstairs getting up at 4 a.m. since he starts work at 5. And the sound of the girls in the apartments to either side of mine watching telenovelas till midnight. Taking work calls all day and having friends over on weekend nights. I know when I play music or have friends over, some of the sound leaks through the walls. So I'd never get upset about hearing my neighbors because it goes both ways. So, when my boyfriend started coming over more often, he had complaints about the neighbors. Which put me in an awkward place. He wanted to go speak to them or have me text them and I said no. For example, one of the early times he stayed over we went to bed around 10. He wanted me to ask my neighbor to turn down her TV. I said she didn't have it that loud and she turns it off at midnight anyway. At 4 a.m., he got very irritated with my upstairs neighbor getting up and cooking breakfast. I said that he would be done by 5 because that's when his shift starts. At 7 a.m., he was still trying to sleep in and the neighbor on the other side had some work calls that he said he couldn't sleep through. I offered him earplugs and he said he couldn't sleep with them in either. He wanted me to ask her to quiet down. He had similar comments every time he heard someone else in the building just living their life, especially if it was when he was in bed. I got frustrated with my boyfriend and told him, you can't expect to date a hot young 22-year-old and not want to deal with a 22-year-old's living situation. I don't know if you realize, but this is a normal apartment for someone my age. Hell, my neighbors are pretty great. Nobody's throwing loud parties on work nights. Nobody's having screaming fights. Nobody's having babies. The hot young part was in sarcastic air quotes because those were his words, not mine. He got irritated and asked why I was bringing age into it. And I said it's because he can't both want someone so young and also want someone with house kinda money. And he was being so out of touch with how normal people in their 20s live. He got really irritated with me bringing age into it. And even more annoyed when I'd respond to his neighbor complaints in the future with "Okay, boomer." Or tell him that if he wanted me to have a rich person apartment, he could pay for it. It's not possible for me to get to his house on my own because I don't have a car and the buses don't go that far into the suburbs. So that would mean him driving 30 minutes from his house in the suburbs to pick me up, then an extra 30 to drive me to his house. Then an hour round trip early in the morning to get me home in time for work. It's a lot easier for him to visit me in the city. I am using boomer as a joke or a figure of speech to say acting out of touch and entitled to tell other people what to do. It is a common figure of speech to say "Okay, boomer" to someone who is acting entitled regardless of their actual age. It's more of a mindset thing. I googled his property records for his house and he co-owns it with a woman who shares his last name. Holy shit. I don't know if she's his wife or ex-wife or what, but I'm out of here. I'm honestly freaking out right now, but I just gotta say, great big thank you to everyone who noticed red flags and made me question that. I've blocked his number. He can have fun figuring out where I went. Me and Sil, Daisy, have been friends since high school, 15 years ago. I started dating her brother, Dan, when we were all in college. Daisy married Matt sometime after I married Dan 10 years ago. Matt and Daisy wanted a baby and starting trying right after marriage, but they were having a lot of trouble. I am talking multiple failed IVFs, multiple late-term miscarriages, one of which was a stillbirth. The struggle went on for 7 years. I have helped her immensely through everything, financially and emotionally. Matt is unsympathetic sometimes. He behaves as if it's a batch of bad cookies and immediately guilts her into trying again. So, it always was up me and Dan to take care of her. Despite many talks from me and Dan, she remained married to him and kept trying again and again. We have had many offers to leave the state / country for a better job, but didn't because we were scared to leave her alone. 3 years ago, I got pregnant. We broke the news gently to Daisy one day. She got real quiet and then asked us to leave. Later, she sent me an email saying she doesn't want to see me or Dan anymore and that this is all too much. We tried to console her but didn't work, so gave her space. 2 weeks before I was supposed to give birth, Dan passed away in an accident. I don't have any family except for Dan and Daisy. Daisy refused to attend the funeral because she will have to see me the day before the funeral, and I called her and begged her to come. I didn't think that I would be able to go through that without her. She hung up on me and didn't attend the service. Soon after that, I gave birth and I decided to move to another state. I cut off all contact with Daisy and started fresh. Now, me and my daughter are very happy and we are enjoying a comfortable life. She attempted to contact me once I moved away, but I ignored her. 2 weeks ago, she called from an unknown number and said she desperately wanted to talk to me. Turns out she finally got pregnant, had a baby boy who passed away 5 days after being born in NICU. Matt is also leaving her and screwed her over because of the prenup. She is basically broke and homeless days after losing a child. I just said okay. She then asked, "Are you really not going to say anything? You are really not going to help?" I pretty much said, "I don't care about you. I don't care about your life. I don't care about Matt. I don't care that your baby died. Just leave me and my daughter alone." And then hung up. Since then she has been sending me multiple emails and VMs stating how awful I am and how heartless and how much Dan would be disappointed. I continue to just ignore everything. I am not going to have any sympathy or help her in any way. My partner and I have been in a relationship for 5 years, living together for 4. Recently my partner came home having had a short meeting with a financial advisor, and was really eager to talk about our financial future WRT savings goals, life plans, timelines for saving up a deposit for a house, etc. This is a conversation I've been trying to have for years with him, so you'd think great, right? I should be really happy we're finally there. But I'm not. Talking about us going for a meeting with a financial advisor and starting to build towards our future together has given me really cold feet about the relationship. I think part of it is why now? I've been trying to talk to him about this for a really long time. With renewed efforts at the start of this year when I landed my first full-time salaried position, and was working out my budget / personal savings goals. Just 4 months ago he wouldn't have a conversation about it. But now that the financial advisor has said the same things, it's obviously something we should be doing and I should just jump on board with? I think if the advice was particularly different to what I'm already planning, I'd be less annoyed. But the advice is the same. There's a certain type of savings account you can start in the UK specifically for saving up for a house. And I've been talking about planning to open one once I'm full-time employed for literally 3 years. And he brought it up like this new, novel idea I'd never heard of. It makes me wonder if he's ever listened to anything I've ever said. He's always been more frightened of commitment / taking the next step. And I've driven that for the majority of our relationship. Become official / exclusive? I pushed for it. Move in together? I pushed for it. Start a joint account for household costs? Me move into a bigger place and buy our own furniture? My call. And every step of the way he's against it and I have to convince him why it's the right decision. I've tried to have this financial future talk for a long time, and also the talk about mapping out what our future plans are together. But he's never wanted to have it. I guess I feel a lot of resentment that he's finally ready to talk about this because someone else has told him it's a good idea. It also brings up a lot of worries I've had about the future that might have been sitting under the surface for a while. Like the marriage and kids talk, I've always been clear about what I want, and he's always vaguely agreed with me. But trying to talk to him about time scales for it is like pulling teeth and always turns into an argument. It's not like I'm saying you have to propose now or I'm leaving or anything. It's literally just stuff like, ideally I'd like to be thinking about engagement and buying a house by 28, and married looking to have kids by 30. So he's literally got like half a decade. But we can't have that conversation because he shuts down / gets annoyed / feels pressured. And I have no idea what he wants from the future because he won't tell me. There's a lot of resentment in this post and I feel the need to clarify that I love him. He's my best friend and our day-to-day life is a dream. But I always feel like I'm dragging him into a future he doesn't want. And that he doesn't really trust / listen to me as an equal partner, until someone else tells him the same things I've been trying to say. I don't want that to be my future. I want someone who has these conversations with me and is excited about taking the next step. This feels like it has been one of the biggest underlying issues in our relationship that we've never been able to address. He doesn't ever really seem to listen to / consider me and often prioritizes his relationships with others. It's like he's expecting that I'll always just be there until he's ready, and that's not a very nice feeling to have. I'm not really sure where to go from here. I guess my big question is, how do I move past this resentment into a productive conversation about goals / expectations? I would like to be excited that he's finally ready to take this step together, but I just feel annoyed and uncertain. I would also like to address the issues of not feeling like a priority once and for all, since previous attempts haven't been successful. So I suppose my other question is, how do I make our communication better so that we can actually talk about these things and come up with a plan to fix them?